Sarah felt the cold metal of her small gun against her leg. Big Tom Bradley's breath smelled like whiskey as he got too close. 6 men had her trapped in the bar. They'd been wondering about the lonely widow for 3 years. Thunder roared outside, and she was stuck in Tombstone with them for the night. "I've been thinking about you all alone on that big ranch," Tom said, slurring his words. His big hand reached for her. "Maybe it's time someone treated you right." Sarah's fingers found her hidden gun under her green dress. Across the room, a young cowboy tensed up. His hand moved toward his own gun. The air felt electric, like the storm coming. What happened next changed 3 lives forever. It showed that in Arizona, the most dangerous weapon wasn't always in a holster, sometimes it was hidden under a woman's dress. 3 years ago, William Mitchell died of a heart attack, leaving Sarah alone with 2,000 acres of good land. She was 38, and every man in town saw her as lonely and available. Her ranch was 8 miles from Tombstone, far enough away, but close enough for gossip to spread. Sarah kept the ranch running through tough times. She had a small gun her husband gave her on their wedding day. "A lady's gun," he'd said, "but it'll kill a man just as dead." Now, as a storm rolled in, Sarah rode into town for supplies. The weather forced her to wait out the rain in the bar, no place for a proper woman at night. But she had no choice. Her fancy green dress caught everyone's attention. She ordered coffee and tried to ignore the stares. That's when Big Tom made his move. Tom owned the biggest store in town and half the mines. He'd wanted Sarah for 3 years. Well, his loud voice filled the suddenly quiet bar. "Look who's here." Sarah went stiff. She'd dealt with Tom before, but always in daylight with people around. This was different. "Evening, Mr. Bradley," she said coldly, finding her gun through her skirt. "Just waiting out the storm." "Sure you are," Tom said, walking toward her. His 5 friends surrounded her table. "Must get lonely out there on winter nights." Everyone else seemed to disappear, afraid to cross Big Tom. Everyone except one person, a young cowboy in the corner. He had sun-weathered skin and cold blue eyes. He watched everything with the stillness of someone used to violence. "I'm fine," Sarah said, standing to leave. But Tom grabbed her wrist. "Don't be rude. We're just being friendly." That's when Sarah showed everyone who she really was. Her gun appeared in her hand like magic, both barrels pointed at Tom's chest. The click of the hammer being pulled back echoed through the room. "Back off," her voice was ice cold, "or I'll shoot you." The silence stretched. Tom's face showed surprise, then anger, then respect. His friends shifted nervously. "This isn't over," Tom snarled, but he stepped back with his hands up. "You can't hide behind that little gun forever." "I won't have to," Sarah replied, gun steady. "It only takes 1 shot." The crowd parted as she walked to the door. The storm outside suddenly seemed less dangerous. But the young cowboy had noticed something. Her hands were shaking as she put the gun away. Sarah Mitchell might be the toughest woman in Arizona, but she was still just one person against everyone. And Jack Wilson had always protected people worth protecting. At dawn, Jack Wilson was packing his horse outside the stable. At 29, he traveled light, a lesson from 5 years in the army chasing Apache warriors. The army taught him to shoot straight and never leave good people defenseless. He decided to help Sarah somewhere between his 3rd whiskey and hearing her voice stay calm even with 6 men closing in. That kind of courage deserved respect and protection. The Lazy M Ranch sat in a valley with red rocks, clear water, and green grass. Jack could see why men wanted this land and the woman who owned it. Sarah came out as he arrived. She wore a simple dress but still looked beautiful. She seemed more relaxed here than in town. "You're trespassing," she called out, but she sounded more curious than angry. Jack tipped his hat. Name's Jack Wilson. I'm looking for work." "Funny," Sarah said, studying him carefully. "Most men who see me in town suddenly need jobs the next morning." "Yes, I expect they do," Jack said honestly. His honesty surprised her. No lies, just admitting he'd come because of what he saw. "Can you work cattle?" she asked. "Yes, break horses, fix fences, repair buildings, handle troublemakers." Sarah was nobody's fool. She'd run this ranch for 3 years through droughts and thieves and men who thought widows were easy prey. This cowboy was a different kind of trouble, the kind with broad shoulders, honest eyes, and a way of looking at her that made her remember she was still a woman. But she needed help. Something in his steady look told her Jack Wilson would keep his word. $30 a month plus meals and a bed, she said. Try anything improper and you'll meet my gun. Wouldn't dream of it, But as Jack got off his horse, Sarah caught herself noticing how strong and confident he looked. Maybe hiring him was a mistake. Maybe it was exactly what she needed. The first month passed slowly but intensely. Jack proved himself with hard work from sunrise to sunset. He was gentle with horses and fixed everything previous workers had ignored. He spoke little but worked steadily, treating Sarah with respectful distance, which only made her more aware of how he looked at her when he thought she wasn't watching. Evenings became dangerous. Sarah would bring coffee to the porch where Jack sat cleaning his gear. They'd talk naturally. He told her about Kentucky, about fighting Apache warriors. She shared memories of Philadelphia society, of marrying William for security instead of love. I never knew what it felt like to choose someone for myself, she admitted one evening. William was a good man, but our marriage was arranged. Practical. Practical's important, Jack replied, his voice heavy with experience. But it ain't everything. Their eyes met across the lamplight, and Sarah felt something stir. Jack looked at her not with ownership like William, or hunger like Tom. He looked at her like she was a mystery worth solving, a woman worth knowing. The attraction built like pressure. Sarah found herself staying longer when she brought his meals. She noticed how his shirt pulled tight when he worked. Her breath caught when their hands accidentally touched. Jack began finding excuses to check on the house. But Jack Wilson was an honorable man, and Sarah was his employer. Lines existed for good reasons, even when crossing them felt like salvation. Then Big Tom Bradley decided those lines didn't matter. Trouble started when Jack found fresh hoofprints too close to the house. Then a broken gate that looked deliberate. Then Sarah getting nervous about going to town alone. Something's got you scared, Jack observed one evening. Tom's been persistent, Sarah admitted. Sending men with offers on the ranch. The kind that aren't really offers. Jack's face went cold. He's wrong about that. But both knew that courage could only go so far against superior numbers. Tom had money, influence, and support from a town that saw independent women as unnatural. The storm broke on a Tuesday morning when Jack rode to town for supplies, leaving Sarah alone. She was treating a lame horse in the barn when she heard horses, too many, moving too fast to be friendly. Big Tom led 5 riders into her yard, their faces hard with purpose that didn't involve talking. Sarah's hand found her gun automatically, but 6 against 1 was impossible odds. Afternoon, Sarah, Tom called out, dismounting confidently. Fine day for a conversation about your future. I'm not interested in conversation, Sarah said, backing toward the house. That's why we're past talking, Tom said. His men spread out, blocking her escape. William left you well fixed. But you can't run this place alone forever. Time you accepted reality. Reality is I've been running this ranch just fine for 3 years, she said. Reality is you're trespassing. Darling, Tom laughed uglily, the only thing you own is what men allow you to keep. Time for a lesson. That's when the first shot rang out, sending Tom's hat flying. Jack Wilson sat on his horse on the ridge, his gun steady and something deadly in his blue eyes. He'd seen the dust cloud from 3 miles away and pushed his horse hard. That was a warning, Jack called out with authority. Next one won't be. Well, Tom snarled, hand moving toward his weapon. The hired help's got opinions. Got more than opinions, Jack replied, riding down the slope with cavalry skill. Got a duty to protect this ranch and everyone on it. The odds had improved but were still deadly. 6 armed men against 1 cowboy and a woman with a 2-shot gun. Tom's men spread wider, hands finding weapons. But Jack Wilson hadn't survived 5 years fighting Apache warriors by backing down. The fight exploded across the yard like a desert thunderstorm. Jack's second shot hit one of Tom's men in the shoulder. Sarah's gun barked twice, taking down the man trying to flank Jack. But then she was out of bullets, and Tom was charging toward her. That's when Jack showed why the army had promoted him to sergeant before he was 25. His horse went down, but he rolled behind a water trough and came up shooting with precision. One shot, two, three, each finding its target with accuracy that came from years of practice and knowing that missing meant dying. Tom Bradley found himself suddenly alone, his men dead or wounded, facing a man with cold killer's eyes. His confidence evaporated. "This ain't over," he snarled, but the words lacked conviction. "Yes," Jack replied, gun steady. "It is." Tom mounted his shaking horse, eyes promising revenge, but rode away. Sarah and Jack both knew something fundamental had changed. Lines had been crossed. Blood had been spilled. There was no going back. In the sudden silence after violence, they found themselves standing closer than proper. Adrenaline and shared danger created an intimacy more powerful than attraction. "You're bleeding," Sarah whispered, seeing the blood on Jack's shirt. "It's nothing," he started, but she was already guiding him toward the house with trembling hands. Some boundaries, once crossed, could never be rebuilt. The house felt different with Jack inside, smaller, more intimate, charged with possibilities. "Sit," Sarah commanded, her voice husky. "Let me see." Jack lowered himself into William's old chair, wincing as Sarah helped him remove his shirt. The bullet had scraped his upper arm, painful but not dangerous. But Sarah had been alone too long to ignore the sight of Jack's bare chest in her sitting room. The lamplight played across muscles earned through honest work, scars from a hard life. When she leaned close to clean the wound, her breath caught at the masculine scent of him. "You're staring," Jack said quietly, his voice rough. Sarah started, then stopped. She was 38, a widow who'd learned to survive. "Why lie? I'm appreciating. It's been a long time since I've had reason to appreciate anything about a man." Jack's breath caught. "Mrs. Mitchell." "Sarah," she corrected, looking up to meet his eyes. "I think after today we're past formalities." The distance between them seemed to shrink. Sarah's hand rested on Jack's chest, feeling his heartbeat. His fingers brushed her cheek. "Is your mind always on what's under my skirt, Mr. Wilson?" she whispered. The words carried a double meaning, the gun that had saved them both, but also the woman, the curves and warmth and 3 years of loneliness she'd kept hidden. "Well, Jack's voice was barely a whisper, "I reckon it's both the danger and the beauty." When he kissed her, Sarah felt something inside her break open. This wasn't William's careful affection or Tom's brutal possession. This was hunger meeting hunger, need answering need, two people who'd found something rare in an unforgiving world. "I want to protect you," he whispered, "not because you can't protect yourself, but because you shouldn't have to." It was the most beautiful thing anyone had ever said to her. They made love there in the sitting room, with the desert wind singing outside. Sarah discovered that Jack touched her carefully and thoroughly until she was crying out his name. And Jack learned that Sarah had fire beneath her composed surface, passion that had been hidden but never extinguished. When they lay together afterward, Sarah felt something she hadn't experienced since girlhood, the absolute certainty that she was exactly where she belonged. But the world beyond her ranch wouldn't forgive this easily. Dawn brought harsh reality. Sarah woke in Jack's arms and felt the weight of decision. Tombstone wouldn't accept this, a widow taking up with her hired hand violated every rule. Tom would use it as ammunition, painting her as a woman with bad judgment. But as Jack stirred beside her, his eyes opening with wonder and contentment, Sarah realized she no longer cared what Tombstone thought. "Morning," he murmured. "Morning," she replied, then voiced her fear. "They'll call me awful names for taking up with my hired hand." Jack's expression hardened with determination. "Then maybe it's time we found a new town. I hear California's got good ranch land. Places where people can start fresh, be judged by what they do instead of what folks think they know." The idea hit Sarah like lightning, sudden and illuminating. She had money from William's investments to buy good land anywhere. Jack had skills that would work on any frontier. Together they could build something new, something theirs. "You'd do that?" she asked. "Leave everything behind to go west with a woman 10 years older than you?" "Sarah," Jack said, his hands framing her face. "I've been drifting my whole life looking for a reason to stay put. Found it right here." 6 months later, they stood on a hillside overlooking San Francisco Bay. The Double W Ranch, their ranch, stretched behind them, 2,000 acres of California green that would support their cattle, horses, and dreams. Sarah still carried her gun, but now it protected both of them, insurance against a world that could still be dangerous for those who refused to conform. She'd kept William's wedding gift, but it served a new purpose, guardian of a different kind of love, a different kind of future. "No more hiding what's under that skirt, Mrs. Wilson," Jack said, arm around her waist as they watched the sunset over the Pacific. "Nothing to hide from you, husband," Sarah replied, leaning into his strength. Behind them, ranch hands were calling cattle home. Ahead lay whatever challenges California might bring: drought, flood, market crashes, claim jumpers, the 1,000 difficulties of building a life on the frontier. Tonight they had each other, and the certainty that some risks were worth taking, no matter how dangerous they seemed. In the end, that was enough. More than enough. It was everything. If this story of love, danger, and second chances touched your heart, let me know in the comments where you're listening from tonight. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more tales from the frontier, where passion and danger dance together under the endless western sky. Until next time, keep riding toward your own horizon.